Hello, good morning, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, and disembodied hands, Quindy, and sometimes Justin and John, but we're not really convinced they're real anymore because I haven't heard from them in so long. Just kidding, guys. I think they're all fictional except for you, Quindy. Hello, good morning. Rainy morning here in the South Bay, although it's supposed to clear up. But it was nice hearing the rain on the roof. I really love this house because you can really hear the rain. It's an older house. And the roof is pretty thin because, you know, in this climate, you don't need a lot of insulation and stuff. So it's really nice. Missed Imp with the 27 months. And you're a patron of me now. Hi, thank you. Thank you for both. Both things. Both things, finger hearts. Yes, well, in the South Bay, it is a nice rain, Kuriko, because we get so little of it. We get so little of it. My Japanese maple is much happier when we get rain. It was very sad. I had to water that thing like every week, and I would often forget, so it's probably really mad at me. And I love Japanese maples. That makes my heart sad. Apparently, I don't love them enough. Alrighty, let's see here. Let's blacken our Blackened Creams today. I'm going to use something pretty dark for the cream, Nod Bone. When you're doing white or off-white or near white, you want to start darker because chances are as you bring that up, if you start too light, you're not going to be able to see your highlights. So always start darker. Stained Ivory was a good call, but I think that is that canceled? I don't remember. It probably is. But Nod Bone is actually a great warm, creamy color, I think, to base stuff off of. This, of course, is from, I think, the Adventure Colors set in Fast Palettes. Hey, Turgeon. Oh, interesting. Interesting, Miss Imp. Well, sorry for the welcome email, then. I have enough patrons now that I've forgotten. I've forgotten all of you. No, not all of you. But each patron is just like, is this person from before? Sometimes I have to ask myself. Sometimes I'm like, oh, but hey, it's all good. Awesome. Either way, awesome. That's what it is. So I want to do some black. And of course I still forgot to grab my pure black. So that means we're doing not black. You guys are totally going to get used to me never ever actually using black because I'm just of course you love being noticed. Humans love being noticed. It's true. And I notice each of you, but then, if you subbed to me a year and a half ago, then I may not remember. It is the beautiful and wonderful Urgathoa Red from Pathfinder because it's a wonderful burgundy. And I've been wanting to use it. So now I'm using it. Also, I have stiffly this morning because rain, barometric pressure. So yeah, we're going to do a red. This is essentially, by the way, if you... I lost my paint. Apparently, it's the Anthros things on the floor day. Great. Just what I wanted. So we've been doing a lot of red, yellow, blue schemes lately, guys. Maybe we need to mix it up a little bit. I haven't intended to, although you guys chose this one, so I'm blaming you. But this is technically, if I use blue liner in my black to make my black, and if I let it shift more that way, this is actually a red, yellow, blue scheme. And this is a excellent example of how, when I tell you guys, start with red, yellow, blue, or green, orange, purple, and you don't need to use all three, just use two. And then fill it out with neutrals. But this is an excellent example of how you can do that, but not do it obviously. You would think this is just a red color scheme until you see bluish highlights and then the yellow tone of the cream. But actually it is a red, yellow, blue scheme. So maybe you will polish Sam. But yeah, so this is an example of how primary and secondary color schemes aren't always obvious, especially when one of the colors is really dark or really light, or if two of them are. So like if you did a green, orange, purple and you used nightshade purple for your purple, that's a black purple. So it's not going to be like screamingly obvious what you did. But in subtle terms, it's going to work like that. And because these technically are red, yellow, blue, they're all going to work together great. So that's something to consider, is how I've said this before, but when you're choosing colors, remember that red is not just bright red. Red can be dark red. Red can be pink. Red can be red, orange, or coral, salmon colored, whatever. It can be like a red black. It doesn't have to be like fire engine red. And the same with your yellow. There are so many yellow browns and yellow beiges and yellow creams. And a lot of dark colors that are blue-ish. Gray blues also count on this. So yeah, so keep that in mind when you're looking at color schemes. It's like red, yellow, blue isn't always just red, yellow, and blue. But it still works like it is. It still works together. So this is actually, technically burgundy and cream works because it's a red, yellow color scheme. Just like I said, you don't have to have the blue. If I decide to mute out all the blue by adding walnut to it to mix my black, then my color scheme's still gonna work great because I've still got the red and the yellow. So I have 2 out of the 3 of the primary triad. Does that make sense? I have not decided if I'm gonna go very blue with the black. I may go more neutral and just edge it cool. Usually if I do a 50-50 mix of these 2 colors, it ends up black, but it ends up slightly on the cooler side, but not very blue. So yes, color theory in the morning. Get used to it. In the evening for some of you. So I want to block in my tones today because this character is a little bit complex. So I'm going to make a bigger paint puddle though, because I want this black to stay good through the whole morning. Do you see how this is still red and yellow though, Tukele? Or Tukili? I'm not sure how to pronounce you, but I'm going to pronounce you kind of Hawaiian, which would be Tukele. Yeah. But yes, because a lot of times people, when they choose color schemes, they just go for the very bright, they just think in terms of the bright colors, the true hues, right? The color wheel. They think in terms of the color wheel, and they forget that when you look like down at various parts of the color wheel where they're adding white, gray, and black, that you actually get some pretty muted colors here and darker colors, right? You could they just added a little bit of black to the inside circle of these to make a slightly darker green or a slightly darker blue. And actually this one isn't even that dark. But you could add more and go all the way down. So let's see here. Let's put that back. And then I want my cream. And we'll get our palette so where you can see it. And the dudette. Right. Hey, Masara, thank you. 25 months. Yay, you're on your way to your triple sub-anniversary. On the way. 3, 4, 5. I'm going to go with, we'll go with 6. There. Hello, Iffy. You missed the color theory, Iffy. Good timing. Oh dear. I'm in a good mood today. I like rainy days. It was nice to hear the rain this morning on my roof. And my editing on my book is going well and quickly. All right, so mixing blue liner, and often I do blue liner and brown liner, but lately I've taken to doing walnut and blue liner. And the reason that I would do that is that walnut is very high coverage and blue liner is not. So that essentially gives me a black that at least has slightly better coverage. You could also do like Nightmare Black with walnut, but I would probably do a little less Nightmare in that case because that's got so much blue in it, it will easily overpower the brown tones here. However, that said, if you want to use Nightmare Black as a black, but you want it to be just a little less blue, doing it half and half with walnut is a great choice and will give you a very high coverage black that's colder. Other people were saying their brains were tired, but yes, okay, you love color theory. Mostly I was talking about how this is actually a red, yellow, blue color scheme. Or at the very least, it's a red and yellow color scheme, and the blue really depends on how cold I take my black. However, that said, guys, one reason to take the black more blue would be for contrast, right? Because if we've got that red, yellow, blue, then, you know, red, yellow, black is good enough. But if you take it blue, then you're invoking that primary triad even more. And so you'll get more contrast out of it. But yeah, so we've been doing a lot of red, yellow, blue lately. So I'm kind of like, because Bunny is, the hair folk is red, yellow, blue. And the ogre is red, yellow. And actually blue too, because of his thing. I think it's because I was doing so much green and purple for a while. Or orange and purple that I was just like, or yellow and purple. That was just like, something else. So yeah, and even the horsey has like red hindquarters with his reddish brown, so the centaur. So I think then for our mage I may go against what we originally were thinking with the mage. I think we were going teal with her, if I would call, like dark blue. I don't remember. But we're gonna, unfortunately, our pirate is going blue, so we're gonna have to switch it up, guys. The next model we start, and I think I will have to do it with wizard. We'll have to do something with orange, green, purple, because we've been doing entirely too much red, yellow, blue. I love green, orange, purple. It is normally my favorite triad as far as if I had to choose one of those. Sweet, nice, Iffy. So as a reminder, our base red is Orgothoa. I'm going to mix it up too, just in case I need to do touch-ups after I apply these other colors. But mostly today, we're going to be blocking these in, and then we're going to have to make a decision on skin tone. But I want to get, because we have a very strong idea of the color scheme we wanted for the model, I wanted to get all of the other stuff blocked in first, and then make a call about her skin tone. And this is how I usually do. I'm kind of, you could call it a reactionary, like, color chooser. If I don't have a strong idea going in about skin tone or about a main, a certain color of an accessory or whatever, or an accent color, I'll just let the figure develop, and I'll make my call as we go. All right. So I'm going to get this red queued up, and then we'll be good. Because right now, if I took like red, the dark red and black, like right up next to her skin, I'd be less inclined to go with a darker skin tone because I want contrast. But if I decide that like this edge around her skin is going to be like cream, then I could go with a darker skin tone if I wanted. You could go either way with it, really. I think that we could go either way for the neckline, and the decision I make with the neckline is going to directly influence how dark I take the skin tone. Yeah, if you're in Minnesota, you are looking at my weather and crying, because but that's why I ended up here. Like, it took me like 48 years to get back to where I was born. It was the one thing my mom was like, it was really expensive out there, but we really love the weather. If you have a hard time with light skin tones, chances are you are not starting dark enough. You actually have to start, just like I was just saying with the cream, how if you're going to go near white, you have to go with a dark cream to start with, or you're going to totally not see your highlights. It's very, very true on fair skin tones. You still have to have shadows. I'm going to get in focus here, guys. Hold on. There. But we'll see. In order to do a pale skin tone, I would definitely have to take this neckline darker. And it would also mean her jewelry doesn't show up quite as well. So sometimes I don't go super, super white. Like, I do maybe with vampires, but even there, I'm starting with a mid-tone that's definitely in the mid-range. The biggest, like I said, the biggest problem with pale skin tones is most of the time, you guys, people who are having issues typically don't take them dark enough. in the shadows. You've got to take them dark. And that's why I start dark with them. That's why I always start dark with skin, because I find otherwise I lose my shadows, or I go to put them in and I'm too tentative with them and I don't get a good result. Because you can infinitely layer highlights onto a skin tone. But trying to re-add shadows can be harder because you're usually using it thinned, and that means you have to have a lot of patience and build up depth. And a lot of people don't. They'll put one shadow on it and they'll be done. So if that sounds like you, then the fix is to start with your shadow for your skin. Even for fair skin, I start with tan skin. Or I'll start with tan skin with just a little bit of white. Or tan skin plus rosy. That's actually, I haven't done that for a while. Maybe we'll do that on her. There's a mix that you can do that's tan plus rosy skin. It adds some warmth to the tan skin and brings it up a little bit lighter to start. And then you start with that and you bring it up and you can go real rosy then with some of the tones. And she looks like she might be the rosy type. So we can do with that. All right. So I think it is likely, this is where I'm pausing. Because again, I'm back to the black and white thing. I think though, I think she would not go with a cream outer. I think she would go with a cream inner. So I'm going to go cream for these cut-ins. And then I'm going to go black with the laces and black with the outers. And since she's got a split back, I think I'm going to alternate. I'm going to go black on the edges and cream down the middle, just like in the front. Always alternate your lights and darks. It makes for a more visually interesting piece and makes your details stand out better. Yeah, rosy skin is a good skin tone triad for lighter tones. But I believe I mentioned this before, but if you use the pale skin or the fair skin triad, actually start with tanned highlight. Start with tanned highlight and go up from there. And I feel like you'll have greater success that way. So then we've got a central panel back here that I'm going to, oh, we've got a couple actually. That one's split down the middle. I just saw that. That's all right. I can do that. If I really want something to be symmetrical, because there are technically 4 panels back here on her back, but I don't like the, I don't want to really alternate and get like a black on one side and a white on the other, because that just seems kind of harlequin-y to me and I don't want to go that way. So instead I'll make 2 beige panels in the middle. I'm not afraid to do that. I can still put shading and highlighting and make it look good, but I'm gonna not alternate each panel. In that case, I'm gonna go alternating black, cream, and black because I want the black on the outside. Yeah, I start dark and work light on all my skin tones. Like everything I do, maybe with the exception of if I need to do a darker skin tone that's more golden. Like a little bit of a dark skin tone, but that's lighter than the really dark skin. Then I may start in the middle, because starting dark with dark skin can really push it dark, like we learned with the Sphinx. Remember that your starting color really influences your end result. We talked about this yesterday, how we did it with the knoll, and how I had to paint over the hare's leg in order to make sure that they were both, because I had painted one dark blue and I decided that I wanted to go with a different color. So I had to repaint it in gray so it matched the other unpainted leg first before we painted over it, because your base coat has such a strong effect on your colors. And if you're a black primer person, keep this in mind, because when you go with that black primer, it changes a lot. This is why zenith highlighting, zenith priming is a thing, is that it tends to give you an intrinsic difference in your shadow tones, at least with that first layer. Over time, you'll wipe it out. You know, I went with red on the outside here, but now I'm actually wondering if I really want to go red with those sleeves or if I want to go black and white. Well, I'm going to go cream on the insides anyway. But yeah, this is a complex gown. And so working out what you're going to alternate, which colors are going to go where, you know, just take it, you know, one step at a time and kind of stop and look at it after you do it. You can see that even though this is a very dark cream, it still looks close to white over the white primer. And that's why I said go darker with it. In fact, I will probably go even darker with the shadows for this cream in order to get contrast. I might go black with the cuffs though. That might be or black with her gloves. She is wearing gloves. But she probably would wear white gloves. Or red. Maybe red. We'll see. If we're going to go with a fairer skin tone, then I'm going to go black with the lace around the top of the neckline. Because I do want a contrasting color there, that little crunkled lace. Normally I would go white with it, but if we're going with a fair skin, I'll go black just for contrast. All right, so start blacking this in. And as we block this in, we're going to get a much better idea of how our color scheme is looking. And normally, as you know, I don't do this. Normally, I would block in a section, paint it to top, and then go to the next section. The reason I'm doing this with this is because this is too complicated. So I know that I could get myself into a place where I don't like the result. So I want to block in my colors in advance and then work on bringing them up. It is a rarity that I do this, but the reasoning is always I want to make sure that it looks good. This is a really bold color pattern. Red and cream. It's burgundy and cream. It's a very dark color it's a darkish color with a very light color. And so, plus I'm using black, so I'm bringing in even more contrast there. Notice how this mix of walnut and blue liner perfectly reads as a black, by the way. It's just fine. All right, gonna hit that down there. So we'll get that bodice in, then we'll start to see the shape of the figure more. But yeah, just be as careful as you can. I'm getting a little bit of run in here. I accidentally filled in a little triangle. When you have an edge that comes up against texture, it's common to see this happen. I'll just kind of slurp some of it off with my brush, but then I'll come back over it with the cream just to tighten it up. I'm also thinking we'll go cream with this front part. Kind of thinking I might go the gems black and just give them like blue highlights, like they're really dark, like sapphires. Sapphires can look very, very dark when the light's not on them. So that's looking pretty good. And we know that this fan is going to be mostly black feathers because Ostrich Plumes. Oh, sorry. Ergothora red. Yep. I missed that. I answered it at the beginning of the stream and I forgot this one. It's just a perfect burgundy. I like it a little bit better than burgundy wine, which can go very purple. So burgundy one you could use as a shadow for this. But I really like that this is more of a warm dark red, less cold. I'm going to bring in these Ostrich Plumes with the black. And again, we're alternating colors here. So we've got red against black, against cream. Trying not to cross them. As I mentioned yesterday, if you have small, it was yesterday or the day before, if you have small areas where a red is up against a red, but in general you've got your colors alternating across the figure, you're fine. Especially if it's an inconsequential area on the hip, or, you know, like here where these black plumes might come up against a black gem if I follow through on what I'm thinking. That's going to be okay, especially if I highlight the gem with blue. I can also, since these are ostrich plumes, I can bring up the outside edge with a bit of highlight and make them a little lighter. With a complicated figure, you're not going to be able to get it perfectly to line up all the time. So just mostly alternate, and especially alternate lights and darks and colors in areas that are important. So like up here. Usually the most important part of a model is the face and expression and like the torso, because that's where the action with the weapons and any twisting or, you know, shape of the body, silhouette, that's where that all comes in. So that tends to be the most important part of the figure. The lower parts of the figure are usually not important unless you have a diorama where a monster is coming up and about to eat the feet of the character. You know, then you've got some action going on down below, then your priorities might shift. But even there, the character itself is probably more important. Many of the, if there's a lot of like freehand on those, you know, if there's a lot of stitching on the gowns, there's only so much you can do on a small model like this. We'll be doing freehand on this model. And that's the problem. I have a lot of Renaissance Fair gown references, but a lot of the embroidery is too fine to actually do on a model this size. You could get a lot closer on a bust. Urgathoa is warmer. If you want garnet red, Korniko, just mix. You can get very close to it by just mixing 9002 and 9003. So deep red and blood red. That will give you a very, very close hit with garnet. This is not garnet. This is warmer. Warmer and more neutral. Garnet is quite cool. It has red and violet in it. Debating. Yeah, I think I'm going to go white. I might even introduce some green on this. And risk the Christmas. Because I'm thinking about a dark olive, like kind of leaf pattern. But we'll see, we'll see. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I'll do freehand on the red and decide that I don't need it on the white. Or maybe I'll go with more of a brown, like a golden brown. Because that's a common color for brocade. Is golds and browns. You didn't have those, Korniko? Really? I always figure people have got all the early colors, but I guess not. Not if you came in later. All right, so we're getting, yeah, this is starting to, you can see how everything is coming out now. Now we do have a lot of cream and burgundy, but that is the main part of our color scheme, so that's what we should have. Now one thing I could do is I could either bring these little guys down in black, or I could do a pattern on them where I made part of them black and then the rest of them red. I'm considering that because I kind of want to, I like the drama of the black. I like having that really dark color, and putting more dark color down lower will, you know, it'll balance out the figure and it'll also detract a little bit. I might give her black hair at this point. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. We'll see. But you can see how I'm just progressing, and I haven't even made a decision about the hair color yet. But as I block in more of this, I'm starting to consider what would look good with the overall composition. Yeah, so we'll blacken these, and then we'll decide where else we're going to throw our black. Now, we are going to have some gold or silver, probably gold, given the warm color scheme of this. That's kind of a way you can think about it if you want to. Sergio teaches this. He teaches that all the colors on a model should be either toward warm or toward cool. So since we have a lot of warmth on this model, and we haven't taken the black like strongly toward blue, we're probably going to go gold with any accents because it makes the most sense for the color scheme. And you can make like a case for clashing colors with other models, but especially if you've got somebody in a fancy ball gown, the color theory behind doing a dress like this is going to be the same as we're using to paint a miniature. So it's very likely that the dress designer went harmonious rather than disharmonious with the color scheme. Yeah, I think I do need some black down low, though. That's something you really, like, as you move along, you're going to be like, I like all this up here, but I need more contrast down below. Yeah, that's the great thing about MSP is it stays good. I doubt they'd cancel those early reds because blood red's still a good seller, but you never know. So as the Bones line gets more popular, the core line, more colors in the core line will become endangered if Ed continues to cancel, which I think he will. I am no longer there to fight for the paint line, folks. So I can no longer dig my heels in and resist cancellations as I did for many years. Though I do think cancellations are a solution that, unfortunately, we have too many colors, so it does make sense to implement cancellations for colors that don't sell, but it just makes me sad when like colors get canceled that are extremely useful and it's just that nobody but me like gets it. Yeah. If I was going to make my own Reds Fast palette, I would probably use different colors. I would use Pathfinder colors. I would make a warmer version of the Reds Fast palette. Which is funny because for Eternity and mini painting, you could only find warm reds, but then, things started to shift and now the cool reds are more popular. It's very funny to me. And normally I do go for the cool reds. But for lately, I've just really liked Asmodeus and Urgathoa veering toward the other way. But depends on the model. That said, my old red formula, my 9-layer red is a combo of warm and cool and warm reds. Like I go back and forth on it. Yeah, exactly, Inara. That's a nice thing. Even if you use more drops like I do. Like I take a long time to go through a bottle. Even of colors that I use all the time. Months and months and months. Alrighty, so that's good. What are her sleeves then? Or does she have gloves or sleeves? I think actually that's a sleeve. And I think that sleeve needs to be, I don't know, question mark, question mark. It's a question mark, burgundy. Technically, it probably makes more sense to make it cream, but especially if I'm going with a fair skin tone, I'm going to go for the red sleeves. Yes, exactly. ReaperCon does love to give you free paint. It's kind of the cool thing about ReaperCon. There's lots of cool things about ReaperCon. Pretty soon, it'll be time for my potential future puppy to be conceived, and then I'll have a better idea of how long I'll be able to be at ReaperCon. I'm hoping that it all works out, but I may be at ReaperCon for only a little bit of time this year, depending. Alrighty, I'm going to block in these black gems because I think I am going to go black. It's going to be hard to remember that one. So I want to be able to see the distribution of dark and light across the figure. And I still need to do the back of the corset here, or the bodice, and I need to do the collar, lace, and I need to do the other sleeve. So now I want to look for color balance. Now that I've got like alternating things, so I know I have pretty good contrast. What I'm going to start looking at now is balance. So like back here, not a lot of black, mostly like cream. Up on the front, we've got a bit more alternating colors. There's bit more color balance here. Let's do the back, the trim, the lace around her neck. And one tip I can give you for this is to make your brush into a paddle. When you need to do a narrow thing, load up your brush. And instead of unloading it by going all around in a circle like we usually do to give it a good point, go from side to side. Like go once and then turn your brush all the way around and go twice. Once and twice. And essentially your brush will kind of flatten out, but on the edge it'll be razor sharp. And that's what I paint with. So making your brush into a paddle helps you to hit these very fine areas. It's like you're painting with a flat, just briefly, but it's a very fine flat. Now, one thing about the rosy skin triad is that it will not look as, if we do this mix, it's not going to carry as rosy as you may think, and that's because we've got red on the model. So when you've got a more intense source of a color, when you come in with a more muted variation of that color, it's going to just fade out. Like it's not going to really be very visible because the red will come up brighter. Than the color in the cheeks or the skin. We'll have to make the cheeks very rosy indeed to make sure that they read correctly. All your colors are influenced by all your other colors. Putting black onto this will make our cream look even lighter. If I had not put the black on, the cream would look darker. It's all about every color you put on a piece influences all the other colors. Sometimes just a little and sometimes profoundly. But never remember it. My mom and I were talking about this when I was in Arizona just because about colors, because she just painted the walls in their new, they moved out of the house that I grew up in and into a more of a condo up in Wisconsin, and she was talking about the wall color and how it looked really green at first. But once you had like plants in the house that were more green, suddenly you didn't notice the really muted green of the walls. Like you didn't even pick up on it. So it's the same thing. It's universal truth. Color will always change depending on what's next to it. And if you're using a very subtle color, like a little bit of a peachy skin tone, a skin tone with a bit of pink in it, but then you have red on the model, you're just not going to see that pink. Yeah. Gosh, Jazzian, you're up way late. Or not that late, I guess. Evening. And hello, Twisted I just saw you pop in up there. Sorry, I've been talking and not chatting. Been trying to get the colors onto this model. Oh, okay. Yeah. We don't often see you because you're like on that far side of the world. All right, let's get these sleevey things done. We're blocking the cream, and then we'll have everything except like kind of the gold put in. So then we can make decisions about the skin tone and the hair. Actually, we've mostly made a decision about the skin tone because I'm still going to do that mix of rosy and tan. We'll just see how it looks. I used to do that type of mix a lot. Because much as I love tan skin, for women, sometimes it makes sense to me to make it more of a rosy skin. 2 a.m. I turn into a pumpkin at 10 p.m. I pumpkinify very quickly once it gets to that state. I am more of a morning person. Get this blocked in here. And this is where, unfortunately, we get a little bit of disconnect because our cream is not quite lined up. Like the sleeve bits aren't lined up. So that means we have to we don't have necessarily lined up areas. This one is lining up mostly. But between our upper and lower sleeves, they're not lined up. Curse you, Bobby Jackson. It should work, though, more or less. Yeah, exactly, Agent. That's exactly, and it's true with dark and light, and it's also true with hue. So. Okay, so we've got that at least blocked in. Now we get our red and then our black sleeve, and then we will be well on our way to having this figure figured out. Haha, see what I did there. This is a cool mini, and I'm looking forward to doing some freehand on her. Plus, I like the color scheme. All right, I want red. But yeah, I feel like there was a definite lack in the old days of good dark reds and good dark purples. And now we've got a lot more choices. I made an effort when I was doing MSP to make more colors along those lines. And then Pathfinder came along and let me do two reds that I really feel like I'd been missing. Which is why I need to... I think I bought like 4 bottles of Asmodeus so that I always have it. I probably need to buy a couple more bottles of Urgathoa. They work very well together. There. That one lines up, but these don't. Now, if you wanted to bring more black into this, you could, as I mentioned kind of down below, you could edge the red with black. That's probably the choice I would make, is to do thin black borders along the edges of the red, because the red is always coming up against cream. So that would let you maximize your contrast. Well, you know, if you're going to explode a red all over your painting area, you could do worse than Asmodeus. There we go. Ooh, we're almost all base coated. Ooh, excitement. Probably going to bring up the red first here. Probably going to bring up the cream last, because getting everything else in place is going to give me a much better idea of how dark I need to go on my cream shadows and how light I need to go with my cream highlights. The cream is the danger here because it's in danger of washing out and the highlights not showing enough. So I will have to modify my attack now that I've added black into this model. All right, now I need my border there. That hand is more or less buried, so she doesn't really have her sleeves showing up there with the pipe. I will make the pipe probably black also. If I decided to make her hair like a brown, then I might make the pipe the same color, because again, repeating colors across the model. But I feel like black is more likely. She'd have some polished lacquered black pipe. Oh, I missed a spot. Yeah. Yeah, you have crazy weather, Jazzian, for sure. Or tropical weather, I guess. Is it technically tropical? Like as far as your climate zone? Sounds like it with heat and humidity. Oh, that's true. Cold and humid is ucky. I don't know if I could live in Scotland. I really love springtime, and like later springtime in Scotland. That's when I've typically been to Scotland. My couple of trips there. There we go, just blacking in this pipe to see if it works. Since we're going fairer with the skin tone, I know I can get good contrast here with the hand and the pipe, and that's another reason to take it black. Ooh, I missed a mold line. Might have to correct that before I put the skin tone on it. Lol. Oh, Carnico. Surely there are some good parts. Right. Yeah, that's true, Jazzian. If it's humid enough, your body can't actually, like, sweating doesn't do anything. I'm just going to take my knife and just really gently get this little mold line off of her thumb. It's a subtle little mold line. Not too much. I don't want to get that off before I start painting over it. Touch up the cuff there. When I moved here, I was really mad because it seemed like this place had totally cornered all the perfect weather. It was totally not fair. It took all the beautiful weather from all the rest of the world and hoarded it. I do miss Texas heat, though. I do. And springtime in Texas is beautiful. Like, probably my favorite season in Texas was spring. Alrighty. I haven't decided whether I want to make the bowl of the pipe lit or not. I probably will, but for now I'm going to black that in. I'll consider it later. All right, we've got all this. We've got all that. The necklace is going to have gold, and there's going to be gold around there, so then we'll get that. We could go gold, kind of blondie with her hair. We could go brown with it. We could go black with it. We have all sorts of choices to go with her hair. Alrighty, let's get that skin tone mixed up. Where is my... Oh, I might not have rosy skin. I might just have rosy shadow over here. That's good enough. Looking around, see what I've got. I thought I had rosy skin over here, though. Nope. Maybe not. Maybe I just decided I was going to go with... Yeah. Decided not to go with rosy skin and grab my rosy shadow instead. But that's actually similar to what I would do. So... Yeah, probably. Oh, you get little bits of sun, though, here and there in the spring. You put up that picture in my Discord, Kroniko. You get little bits of it. So, okay, instead of doing rosy skin and tan skin, I have rosy shadow. I'm going to mix these two. And it's going to give me kind of a nice compromise between the two. Rosy shadow is very pink. And tan skin is very brown. And so mixing these two and adding a drop of white should give me a good starting skin tone. If I was just using rosy skin mixed with tan skin, I would not add the drop of white because rosy skin has a lot of white in it. So let's mix these. Yeah, I know you have some great food there, Jazzion, that's for sure, because you post pictures of it. I think I would weigh 400 pounds if I lived where you live. I would definitely have to restrain myself. There we go. Sorry, camera got crooked. All right, so we're going to do 3 drops of tan skin, 3 drops of rosy. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Tan skin, again, the most versatile color we make. As far as skin tones go, you can tune it any which way. This is just another example of how to make your tan skin shift. I have very little water weight as it is because I do low carb, but yes, that's true. Maybe I'd only weigh 387 pounds. All right, so you can see that the tan skin is a little darker. You can see the lines of it there between my drops. When we mix these two 50-50, I'm going to see if I like what I get. So what it's going to do is deepen it. It's going to darken it a little bit. And you get something in between the two colors. So you get essentially a rosier version of tan skin, one that's more pink. So if you have, actually you get almost Anne's skin tone. Like, it's real close, actually. Mine is a little fairer. But this is, remember, our shadow. So, because it's our shadow, I'm going to put 1 drop of water in it. Hey, lady. David's job dictates that we stay in California. Although, technically, they do have an office in Ireland, so. Alrighty. I'm probably going to paint right over the necklace when I do this base coat because it's going to take more time to try to finagle around it. And the base for the NMM Gold is going to go over the skin tone just fine. So I'm going to put this on and see how we feel. Ooh, that's vibrant. So it's starting quite dark, and that's what I want, because if I'm going to be bringing it up to a really fair color, I want the shadows to still stay where I can see them. I want contrast. And this is where, once I learned this trick, that's why the shadow for the fair skin triad is so dark. Because with, or sorry, the shadow for the rosy skin triad is so dark. Because with the fair skin triad, I learned that it wasn't ideal to have a shadow color that was so light. And so I made an effort after that to make my shadows darker, to give more play, more options. And she's got earrings as well. Now this is giving her a very healthy skin tone, so she's probably, we're gonna have to paint her as if she's younger rather than older. If she was an old lady, then we would go with a much more washed out skin tone typically. Because as you get older, you don't have as good circulation, and so you tend not to be as rosy colored as you were when you were younger. So that's that. And that's reading about the same level of light and dark as our beige, or as our base for our cream. Tan skin plus rosy skin equals Ann skin. Somewhat. A little bit pinker and a little bit lighter. But yeah, this model is probably going to have skin that's a lot like my own skin tone. Though I do really need to throw some lotion on my hands. Alrighty. There we go, and there's that color. That looks good. Story of my life, Twisted Oma. Turn around and find an extra box of Reaper paint I forgot I had. Yes, skin tones can be used to highlight reds and purples. It specifically allows you to highlight red without going quite so pink, because it tends to go coral because of the yellow in skin tones. Let's do the hands. Luckily, this skin tone is nice and strong. So maybe you can see what I kind of mean, where because the skin tone is actually really strong and it has a color, it's darker than, you know, a fair skin tone would be. It's not, I put it on the model and it doesn't just look pale or white. You can actually see the color. That's a sign that you chose correctly for your shadow for your fair skin. If you put your fair skin down over white primer and it just looks really, really pale and washed out, you need to go darker. And after all this work, we will actually be able to make some serious progress on this model on her next stream. since we'll have all the setup done and then we just need to like grab a color and go. Alrighty. Yeah, somebody just put up on my Discord, it's a Vince Venturella video on monochrome painting, although I wouldn't call it really true monochrome because he's using other colors and he's just glazing the monochrome color over them. But yeah, there's a lot of that in that video, putting down yellows and pinks for skin tones and then glazing green over the top to create kind of a wood elf kind of skin tone. It's very interesting. So I would say it's a pretty advanced video, but it's pretty cool. I'm going to use my black as a liner. That's another way I can get this contrast. I also need to paint these laces in black. Okay, what hair color, guys? We go all sorts of different hair colors. Red is the only one that will not work. And it won't work because you've got so much more red on this. Great courage or just messing around on a model you don't really care about, I'd say Jazzian. Though if you're working with really thin paint, then, I mean, you can always paint over it or prime over it. I'm going to just use this to shade in and a line underneath and between the red and cream real quick. There, just to crisp things up a little bit. I need to do the laces, so I'll do those now in black. You could go black with the hair, sure. Yeah, black works fine because we've got black on the model and we're probably going to take it up with bluish highlights anyway. So at that point, you're just going, you know, maybe a little stronger with your blue highlights on the hair. But black hair is totally a fair choice. Just like with any fine details on these little laces, you can be kind of painting on the exhale. Don't hold your breath. Because you're trying to hit those little details. We could do blonde. It would work with the gold. Red brown probably wouldn't work, Jazzian, just because I think it would clash because you've got the red and the red. Usually with hair, I want a contrasting color. It's why brunettes look so good in blue, typically. And redheads look good in greens. Or yellows or purples, depending on the red. But usually redheads do not look good in red. Except that she's not little old lady because we made her skin tone way too vibrant. Originally, I did think of blue hair, but when we went really rosy with the skin tone, I decided not to go that way. These laces are sculpted a little bit off. There we go. There we go. We've got our laces. Excellent. I can still clean them up a little bit later on. The ones on the side are sculpted a little uneven, or the sculpt, the cast took a little bit weird, so they're not as even as the ones over here. Remember, if you want to build your brush control, it really pays to try to paint things like this. Just take your time, relax, paint on the exhale. The more practice you get doing smaller details, the better you're going to get at them, and the faster you're going to get better. Yeah, I mean, you'd want to go the opposite way, I think, Jazzian. If you were going to go red for her, you'd have to almost go like auburn to make them the same, to bring them together like that so they don't clash. Because this is closer to an auburn hair color than anything. I don't think I would do it in the highlights because this red is really dark. So trying to get this red to work in the highlights might be challenging. I don't know that I would do it. But again, my choices are not everybody's choices, and you should all experiment. My latest writing book was talking about that, about the problem with getting advice from like professional authors or professional artists is that many of them will kind of speak in absolutes and say, oh, well, this works, because they're speaking from their own experience. But if you're really a little bit more like self-aware, you'll understand that just because it worked for you, it doesn't work for everybody. There are plenty of people who take like color rules that like I feel are pretty valid, and they manage to pull off a successful color scheme with colors that I would never use together. So always, always try it for yourself. So again, I'm going to come in with a little bit of lining here just to crisp up and separate these colors. I would line anyway on a 28. So now this is different than doing like a big black panel on each of these, mind. If I did a panel, I probably would do a diamond shape here, like an inverted triangle, and do black at the top and keep the red at the bottom because it would highlight more interestingly. But lining is something that you can just do to crisp up. You can see how this just kind of runs together, and that has a much more crisp edge. So that's why I'm doing the lining. Their dress shadow is not actually a shadow. It's just my base coat was fairly thin, Shirakami. So the dress is actually just base coat at this point. I just tend to thin my base coats more. So before I start up on the red, I will likely do another very thin touch-up over parts that didn't settle in as thick. Morning, Chapman. Oh no, the blued white dog. That poor dog. Sad, sad dog. But yeah, so this is just the fact that Ergothoa, like many reds, does not have a ton of coverage. So if I go back and I just paint over it with a real thin, real fast layer, and this is really quite thin. It's too thin for a base coat. It's like 3:1. But it'll be enough to fill in. So we're going for burgundy, so I want it dark. So yeah, before I go back in and start adding shadows and highlights to this, I will get a more solid base like that. Possibly burgundy wine. Possibly I will mix some dark brown in. Possibly I will mix some dark green in. You could also do some blue liner since I'm already mixing the black using blue liner and walnut. Answer right now is I don't know, Shokami. That's any of those are valid choices. You could argue that purple makes sense to shade the red because we're going with this cream, which counts as a yellow. I talked about color theory on this model a bit at the start of the stream. So you could argue for going purplish or mixing blue into your red to get a purple shade because of the yellow here. And it would be a convincing argument. Or you could go, like I said, mixing a green in to make a very muted brownish red. Right. That's exactly the trade-off, Kariniko. That's what I feel too, is that the thinness of the color. It's just like highlighting greens. It's the same thing when you're highlighting with yellow. The yellow has, doesn't have much coverage, and that makes it easier to layer and get a successful blend if that's what you're looking for. Yeah, so much more like that. Yeah, Violet is more of a mid-dark, I think, and Carnage is more of a mid-dark. They are pretty close to Urgathoa. I think Urgathoa is just a little bit darker than those. Violet's very, very purple. Carnage is warmer. It's more akin to this, a little more muted, though. The Carnage and Bloodthirsty Reds have a fair amount of brown in them, because that's what blood does when it starts to dry, and I wanted those accurate. Very accurate for those who have heard the story. They are based on actual mini painter blood colors. Very very top level mini painter blood colors too. Yeah, usually for red covers well, it's going to be because they're either adding something to it to make it cover another pigment like a red oxide, which you can do. You can sneak the red oxide into a regular red for better coverage to a certain point. Or they're using a thicker base. They're moderately decent. Or they're using a cadmium. The only other way for a red to get really good coverage is if it's a cadmium red, which are becoming more and more rare these days because toxic. Alrighty, just getting these reds a little more solid since Shotakami turned out there, or pointed out there really weren't. Blurfed a little there. There's not actual miniature painter blood in them. They're just based on miniature painter blood. Derek Schubert blood and Jennifer Haley blood. Hey, Pendrake. We are solidifying our reds. We've decided on a skin color. We've blocked in all of our main areas, and the only question left was hair color. Some people were saying dirty blonde, and some were saying black, both of which are very viable options for this model. So I'm just putting a little bit more solid base coat on the red, since when I first put it down it was a little bit thin, because red. And then I'll decide on the hair. Now, one interesting reason to go with more of a dirty blonde, like a brownish blonde, would be to put just a different color on the model. It would be similar to the gold NMM, but a little bit different. And it would probably draw the eye up, because remember, part of our whole point, right, is to use lighter, brighter colors up higher on the model. And if you use a different color on the model than you do like elsewhere, you want to put it in the area, up higher on the model so you can draw the eye up here. So like if I was going to use green anymore on this model, it probably would be on these gemstones around her neck. Or if I do go blue with these gemstones, just a very dark blue, I might go with a brighter blue up here. And if we go with a lighter brown blonde hair, that will definitely make you look up here first, because that's going to be a unique color on the model, even if it's a neutral. Dark brown is another feasible option. Though we're already doing, we're doing brown on our pirate bust. who is tomorrow, by the way. Friday bust day. We were doing her hair last time. It was looking good. I was showing you all the magic of highlighting. Yep, orange hair would clash so bad, Pendrake. That's why we kind of nixed the reddish brown idea as well. Now, technically, there is a point actually where you could do like a red hair or a reddish brown on this model. If I was going to do a red-haired model with red clothing, I would have gone heavier on the black up here instead of the red. I would have maybe made the red for where the black is, and I would have made the black where the red is. The reason is then that pushes the red further away from the red hair, and that can allow you to do that color combo without clashing as much. If you force separation, distance between two very similar colors, you can manage to use both without having a lot of clash. So that is one tactic. Oh, nice. Nice, Inara. Super. Yay, Con. Sure, Sam. You can ask a question about the skin tones. It would depend. If we keep desaturated on the rest of the model, then that would help. If we went really bright with this red, it would actually not help. It would clash more because muted plus bright. I haven't decided quite how I want to highlight this red. I may go interesting. I may use a combo of like skin tones and regular reds to mute it out a little. People suggested blue hair, Pendrake. I decided not to because we used too vibrant of a skin tone for an old lady. We chose to mix rosy shadow and tan skin to get it's really more of a younger skin tone. It's got a lot of color to it. So with that in mind, blue hair not really a great choice. If I had wanted to do blue hair, I would have done more of a kind of washed out muted skin tone. Hold on. I'm losing it. But yeah, Sam, go ahead and ask her question. Yeah, I thought about white hair, but then that's just kind of blah. It's not really fun to paint. Mostly, Cornico, yeah. I knew the red wasn't solid enough, but if people are going to I don't want people being confused by it. So I didn't mind that it wasn't solid enough because I would have filled it in before we did highlights. But since Shirakami mistook it for shading and highlighting, then I wanted to make sure that wasn't the case. I don't want confusion on the stream. There we go. We still need to do a little more lining, but she's coming along. Yeah, you could, or, I mean, I would just paint it. If I was going to go blue, I would just start with a dark gray and bring it up blue-gray. If I was going to do blue hair, I'd just do blue hair. I wouldn't do a wash. I prefer to be very tactical about my highlighting. She's also got an ornament. She's got a little tie in her hair, a little beaded string. But, I mean, blue hair, really you just want kind of a blue-gray. And you can get that mixing any blue and any gray, really. And, I mean, you could also look it up. I always recommend looking up pictures online so that you know exactly the color that you're going for. Or you could just paint her hair blue. Whatever you want to do. All right, so I got our lining. We need a little lining here. we pretty much get up. There we go. Tan skin, rosy, local competition. Skin tones need more colors in there. Okay. Yeah, they're giving you really, whoever gave you that advice, I don't know what level you're at, Sam, but that's very advanced advice. And if you're painting at 28 millimeter, I find that it's not very constructive advice. I find that if I'm going to put greens or blues, if I'm going to mix greens or blues into my skin tones, I'm going to do it on a larger piece, 54, 75 millimeter bus, things like that. It is a way to add shadows to skin. And I think probably the danger part there is that it's very simple to tell you that, but there's more to it than that. It's a pretty complex subject. Essentially, if you have a lot of like warm colors or warm light around your figure, then you add green to skin for the shadows. And if you have a very cold light in your shadows, then you add blue. And that's just breaking it down as simply as I can possibly explain it. But that's not everything either. I think the more constructive thing to say, Sam, is not to add green or blue necessarily, but to make sure that you've got your temperature bands on the faces. I don't know if you're a patron. I did actually, I think it was a $10 thing on color zones on faces. But if you look this up, if you look up facial color zones, if you Google it, you'll find you want to go more yellow or golden on the forehead. You want to go more rosy or pink tones, like even more than if you're using a rosy skin. You want to go pinker through the middle. And then at the bottom tends to be cooler. And that's where you can mix in your green or your blue, just a dab of it to get the shadow under the jawline and stuff. What that person wants you to do is to use more complexity in skin tones. But I feel like the first step is to understand the temperature zones of the face, the yellow, red, blue. And then to start working with more complicated shading colors. You get this. You will get this, guys. Like when no matter what level you're at, somebody's going to tell you something and it's going to be essentially firing like a super advanced concept past you, right? And in reality, there are probably like a number of intermediate stages that you should learn the whys and wherefores of before you integrate that advice. Like that advice in particular is a high-end portraiture kind of concept. So I'd start with, in that case, the temperature zones on the face. So that person's advice isn't bad, but it definitely leaves a bit to be desired because they're not necessarily taking your scale and your level into account. So like here, let me show you what I mean. I can't really show you much on this figure because she's got the hairband on, right? But so if you look at this, normally, if she didn't have this up here, what you've got is essentially the skull is very close to the skin up here. So when you highlight this, you should use more of this warm color that's just on top of her cheekbone here, which is a very yellow color. But then the red zone is in here through the middle, and you can see it, right? You can see it in the rosy blush here. I have a little bit that's not coming through so well, but there's around the nostrils here, and then the lip there. And that makes the pink zone, the red zone, right through here. That's the red zone. So you can see that on the top of the cheekbones. And that's also because the cheekbone is right here underneath the skin. And so that's where we get that yellow. So above here is the yellow zone, above the brush. You can see it, right? But then here, you can see the red tone coming in here, right? And then, yes, it's like asking you to do calculus when you're at algebra. That is a great, that's perfect. That's a perfect analogy. Thank you. And then down here, if you look here, see this grayish shadow here. That is a bluer shadow. And it's coming partially from my zenith, where it's layered over that. So essentially using this yellowish skin tone over the black zenith gives me more of a greenish or bluish shift on the underside here. And you can also see that bluish or greenish shift right down here. You see it? So that's where Well, yeah, but I mean, there definitely is jumping too far ahead. I see this a lot, Jazzian. So I think that it's both, right? File that away for the future, but then like kind of investigate like how the best way for you to integrate that into your painting. Yeah, it is. And keeping a paint journal can help too. But so you can see that on a bust, you can see these different color zones very clearly, and you can get away with the bluish or greenish tones here in the shadows and on the lower side. Now, on a female face, you don't get as cold of an effect down here, but you can still see that this is more bluish, greenish grayed out. Can you see it, Sam? So on a guy, you'd maybe even emphasize that a little bit more. You can get away with that 5 o'clock shadow look on a guy. And that's what you tend to get, that kind of blue shift. Yeah, yes. That's a great point, Jazzian, is don't be too hard on yourself if you don't get it yet. But at the same time, don't feel like you're failing because you don't do it. There's definitely a road to get there. So this is, I think that before you start really learning about blue and green in your skin shadows, that it's more useful to like learn color zones. Where do I put reddish tones in my skin? Where don't I? You start with that. And then from there, once you've got that down, then you can start like really messing around like Boris Vallejo and Frazetta did, and getting some really interesting cold colors mixed into your skin. But I feel like when I look at models more, what I more want to see is that yellow, red, blue shift on the face, the yellow, red, and then cooler. And like I said, that's kind of an entry level, right? Because you can use a little bit of blue to shade the cold zone on the face, the jawline. It doesn't apply with the beard because the beard's going to change it, but you can start with a guy. You're still going to get the reddish hint, but it's going to be less so usually. And you're still going to cool down the areas down here. But because the beard color is going to predominate, you aren't necessarily going to get that cold shift that you would without the beard, Chapman. So the beard kind of like overwrites that bottom part a little bit. You can show a bit of a cold fade as you're going into the hairs of the beard, I think, and a little bit under the bottom lip where you have a little bit of skin without hair. But otherwise, the hair color is going to predominate, and you can't really control that. Yeah, I like actually shading skin tone with purple. I think a lot of times it'll work, especially for older people, because you can get that bruisey kind of tone. Yeah, and I mean, you can use mixes, you can use muted skin tones, there's all of that, but yes. Oh no, that's great. Now you'll see it, right, Sam? Now you'll see when artists, and look at 2D art too, because you'll see it in like paintings, fantasy paintings and science fiction to realistic, historical, or portraits. You'll notice those color zones in the face. Artists that are really good with doing character art and portraiture, they'll have those temperature zones. And now you're going to see it, and then you're going to start to play with it. And then it'll get to the point where when you're painting your skin, it'll seem really, really flat and not right if you just paint it with flat skin tones with no temperature. So that's the cool part, right? So it's the difference between like a really realistic feel and a more kind of flat, cartoony feel. So I think that was a great question. I don't mind derailing this stream at all, especially since we're about to like jump into skin tones next time anyway. Yes, exactly, Jazzian. That's exactly it. Training your eye. Learning to look for that red, yellow, blue. And then learning to kind of add that to your skin tones. And then progressing from there and trying out some more like green, blue shading, purple shading, fun stuff. Oh, yay! Oh, and congrats on the new house, Sam. Yeah, I would love to have you back in my Patreon. Of course. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good information. That was a really good segue. We haven't talked a lot. I've talked a little bit about temperature zones, and I've talked about it on my Patreon, but I haven't. Yes, and thank you, Quindy, for the link. I have a Patreon. We cover a lot of this stuff, and it's a lot more focused with a lot less chat about food and dogs and books. But, so yeah, there's the link in the chat. Thank you so much. I've gotten a lot of new patrons lately. I have to say a big thank you to all of you who have signed up. Thank you so much. It really does keep me going in a very literal way. So awesome. We didn't quite get to the hair, and I think I'm going to ruminate on it. Sometimes if I'm not sure, because I'm kind of leaning toward the dirty blonde, like kind of a brownish blonde. It'll be a bit of a different color. And I could maybe think about how I'd change the blonde hair triad to go with that. Yes, the Cute Animals channel. I know, you just wait, though, till I get a puppy, Jazian. Then it's on. You guys posting your cute dogs in the Cute Animals channel and your cute cats? Yeah, it's on. I can post animal pictures with the best of them. So yeah, so I think that's pretty cool. I think I'm going to... Sometimes when I'm between two hair colors, because I'm kind of like, I could go black, but the more I think about it, the more I like the idea of like a warm like blondish brown or brownish blonde, because it will harmonize with the gold a bit, and it will harmonize with the cream a bit, and it will maybe help pull the eye up even more, so that we can really have the focus be about here, which it will be anyway with all this tight detail. But once we add freehand, we're going to have to fight for all the attention we can get up here. Because once we start doing brocade, then that's going to be distracting. So we have to make sure that we can attract attention up here. We're about to end the stream anyway, Jazian. Thanks for tuning in, even when it's so late where you are. Yeah, I don't know how, man. I don't have, like, I'll have to use a splitter. I don't have any more USBs on this computer. I don't know how I'm going to split off a puppy cam. I have to have my face too. No, we got your meaning twisted, Oma. It's good. Posting all the cat. You should post more cat pics. Everybody loves, like, you got to keep the parity between the cat and the dog pics on a Cute Animals channel. You know, you can't allow one to win over another. So when I start posting lots of cute puppy pictures, then you totally have to, like, you know, post more cat pics, Kernico. Especially because your cats are Ant fans. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. We had a really good discussion about color theory at the beginning of this video, and then we ended up with a good talk about like 3-zone temperature theory on painting skin tones and faces, which is awesome. And then tomorrow is, as I mentioned a moment ago, we're back to Pirate Girl. We got a lot of her hair kind of done in, but I still need to highlight more back here, and I need to figure out my off-color highlights over here with my bounce light, probably blue. We must have puppy cam. Yeah, or I don't know. I'll have to have face cam, but maybe I can move puppy cam. Maybe I can have a switch. I mean, I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. I'll figure it out somehow, Pendrake. Somehow I will figure it out. It's easy, Reaper John? Okay. Well, you can, once I get the puppy, I will message you, John, and I will say, okay, John, I don't have an extra USB. How do I do extra camera? I don't think painting with puppy in my arms is going to work. Puppies are wiggly. Puppies are very wiggly. We love them because they're wiggle monsters, but at the same time, it's not very productive. You don't need the... No, yeah, I can see I'm going to have to, like, have a switcher where I can hit a button and just like switch to puppy cam on the toolbox and then switch back. Or maybe I'll put pro tips in the lower corner of my my paint cam, and then we can have puppy cam. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Thanks, Botry. All right. Yes, you totally do, Twistodoma. Powered USB pubs exist. Okay, great. Well, I'll just, when we're there, when we have puppy imminent, I'm going to be asking you guys for tech so that we can have puppy cam. It's all good. Prepared for puppy cam. We'll be prepping for puppy cam. Yeah, because the puppy's crate is going to be like right here next to me, like while I stream. And when the puppy gets old enough, then their pillow will be there. So this will be like, the puppy will be right here, so it will be able to have a cam on it. All right, guys, it is 10 after the hour. I am going to wrap it, but yeah, come back tomorrow. we'll do something. I kind of want to work on the hair. I want to work with maybe some bluish highlights, reflected highlights on the hair. But I also want to maybe work on maybe the cream or the blue. I know we chose blue for the jacket. So I got to figure out how much blue that's going to be. You know, all that stuff. We got to figure that stuff out. So this is going to be fun. And we got to figure out which blue we're using. So, chat, ready to sponsor Puppy Cam. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you had a fantastic day. Remember, I just put up 2 new free YouTube videos. So if you are not on my Patreon, but you want more Anne instruction, go to my Painting Big YouTube. And I've got a free series called Fundamentals of Miniature Painting. And it's got 5 in it now. Ooh. And then I just came up with some ideas for like 6 through 8 the other day. So I'm all excited. But yes, there's the YouTube. Thank you, Quindy. Woo! Yes. Thank you all, and come back tomorrow for Bust. She needs to have your attention because she's looking so fun. Like I'm really enjoying her. I really am. You can tell because she looks good, right? All right, have a good one, everybody. Back to your marine mammals or whatever Quindy wants to cue us up for. Oh, Michael Moorer. Say hi to Michael. Bye-bye.